Hello my stitchy friends, this is Laura from Stitching by the Shore, my channel all about cross stitch with a little bit of paper crafting thrown in too. As you can tell by the title, this is not one of my regular Friday floss tubes, it is a Flosstube extra. I received the Just Cross Stitch Spring 2025 issue in the mail, and I want to do a flip through with you so that we can talk about all of the fun and lovely projects in the magazine. So grab yours if you have it to flip along, or maybe the digital to flip along with it, and we can just chat and talk about what we might do with these patterns. There are 20 specifically designed patterns, but within those 20, several of them have multiple different patterns that you can do. So there's definitely more projects than that available. And I thought this issue, even more than previous issues, tried to talk about and give you even more ideas about how to maybe how to stitch the projects, but also how to finish them so that you have lots of options beyond just what you see in the magazine. So that's really fun. That's a nice little addition that the magazine's doing this year. Okay, so this very first piece is called Brimming with Blossoms. I'm going to bring it right close to you. And it is designed by Rona Nori from Tangled Threads and Things. So in this is the very first example. You actually get two different patterns, so two different pieces to stitch, and they are just lovely pastel colored floral pieces with teapots. Well, teapot and a teacup. And what they did here is they took these and they decorated a hoop and then they put them in hoops. Now that's a fun way to do a hoop finish if you don't want to make it look so much like a hoop. I mean, there's ways to stain hoops as well, and this is a different way. I've seen other ways of wrapping ribbon. This is a different way, and it shows you with a couple of pictures within the magazine of how they fully finish the hoops. So it's another way to add fabric instead of ribbon actually to the hoop, which is a lot of times what you see wrapped around is ribbon. I like these quite a bit for their sweetness. I think I would probably choose a very pale colored fabric rather than just the white. You could do pretty much anything because all of the pieces are backstitched. So it's not like there's going to be a color that's really going to fade in because there is the backstitching to bring those pieces out. Now, besides hoop finishes, they could be really cute as leaners. For example, this is what I call as a leaner, where it's just a single layer, and then you can tuck it in different places, whether you have tiered trays or shelving. You could do cute little pillows if you wanted to put them within either a bowl or a tiered tray, or any of those finishes. If you had maybe you have a display of a tea set and some tea mugs and things like that. This would be quite lovely nestled in if you have kind of like a tea set or a tea collection. If you have, instead of say a coffee bar, a tea bar, I think that would be really fun too. So that's the very first piece in a set of two patterns within the book. And I did want to show you, so they do show you what they did. They take a strip of fabric and then they use something called Suk Wang tape. And I actually have some, so I just want to show you what it looks like. If you see here, that's the name. Is it upside down? No, that should be okay. That's the name of it. And it's basically a double-sided tape. So if I find the edge, it's a double-sided tape. Once you put one side down, you just take the paper off. Use like a little pin or something if you have trouble taking the paper off. And then you put that on your fabric and then you wrap it around. And these come in various different widths. The one that they're showing in the magazine is a thicker width. I don't know if the inside tells me. No, it doesn't. But you can find them in super thin widths all the way up to super thick. And I use them for paper, ribbons, all sorts of different things myself with paper crafting and that kind of stuff. So easily found, I believe, and a great way to, add a little something extra. And it's kind of nice how they showed you a couple different pictures how to do that in case you really like that finish. Alrighty, this next one here it's a design by Barbie Lowe of Twisted Willow Designs, and it's called Fragrant Path. As you can see here, it is a full coverage piece. Since I've started getting the magazines as a subscription and doing the flip throughs, I've noticed that they will predominantly have at least one full coverage piece within the magazine. Sometimes you actually get two as well, depending on what their themes are or what they're looking to do. This one here is beautiful flowers. It really wouldn't matter what fabric you used, any type of scrap. You could do white, or you could do a pale color if you were worried about maybe white showing through, but it's all going to be covered, so it's really not going to matter. And they do frame it right up to the edges. And I think if you were to stitch this one, it looks really lovely as a frame, and they chose a really nice one to kind of go off the delicateness of the flowers. Now there is quite a bit of confetti in this one. It is a bit confetti heavy, so just something that you'd have to look out for. Okay. Now, because it's a full coverage, just a few pages, so we have to flip a couple pages here. Okay, this next one, I know I say this wrong every time. This is artwork adapted for cross stitch by Le Petit Croix de Lucie. I don't know. Sometimes if you pretend you've got like a French accent, it sounds like you're saying it right, which I know I'm not. This is Bluebirds and Blooms, and it is designed by, oh, I told you already. That's right. And they actually used kind of what they called a painted fabric. But there are lots of different like lightly colored fabrics that you could use. This one has multiple kind of shades into it to kind of illustrate maybe like a dusk or a dawn when the sky is a little bit pinkish. You could just go something more just blue if you wanted a blue sky. They also do talk about actually, if you wanted to paint your own fabric, they give just a small little box that talks about what you would want to consider so that the paint would still keep the fabric flexible, but would stay on there as well. So that's an option if you wanted to try something new. I think it's a lot of fun with the frame that they chose, but you certainly could choose something a little bit different, or a different color scheme if you wanted to bring out colors in a different way. Now there is a lot of backstitch on this one. It's one of the more heavily backstitched pieces, so that would be something you'd need to keep in mind. Alrighty, a couple pages for that one. Oh, this is a sweet little piece. This is called Simple Joy, and it is designed by Kira Garon of Matte and ME Design. And as you can see here, they just stitched it on a white, and then they actually put it on a cute little crocheted little bag. I could easily see maybe stitching it on blue if I didn't want to stitch that. And then how sweet would this piece here be? I mean, you could certainly even stitch it on a white or something, but a nice pale blue would be pretty. And I think this would be quite lovely if you wanted to make a sweet little card for somebody, because the flower itself is very blocky, and then you just have the bee and then the little heart. And that could be a very sweet thinking of you sort of card, or wishing you well, or even a get well, or things like that. Even a birthday. There's lots of different options you could do for that. So that's a lot of fun. Start to think about different ways that you might want to use this, especially if you wanted to give something to someone it's a nice little sweet reminder that you're thinking of them without spending hours and hours of stitching something. Okay, so this next piece here is called Spring Morning, and it is designed by Charlene Howard Blank of Tranquil Tree Designs. And I'm going to bring it up close because it is a set of 9 small little pieces. So here again, you could see you could do one large piece as designed here, but I'm also going to show you, they show you pictures of how you can do it separately. So in essence, you could have 9 different pieces here. So let me flip that over for a minute and come up really close and show you here how they stitched on purple, which I really like that choice. And they made sweet little pillows out of it. So those are 3 pieces that they chose to stitch singly. And if I look and see, how big is one of those squares? 10, 20, 30, 10, 20, 30. Approximately a 40 by 40 square is what you're looking at if you were to do the entire white outline of the piece. You know, because you've got that within kind of like on a little shelf, and then you have the square around it. I could see really doing these on any kind of purple, blue, green, anything light, but enough that the white would show up on. And again, whether you wanted to do them together or singly, pillows are cute. They'd also be cute for like little spring ornaments if you wanted to have like a little tree, a tabletop tree, and put some lovely little ornaments, a sweet little set of them, because they all have kind of that same design. It would be almost like a little collection that you've placed on that little tree, or in a bowl or a tier tray, or lots of different options. So that one is called Spring Morning. Okay. Next here, we have a pattern called Irish Blessing. And actually, let me see if I flip it to the next page, and be careful not to show you the pattern side. This is a bigger, actually, I want to show it to you in both ways. Let me show you to the original design. And that's how they have it right here, kind of in and among the plant, and there's sort of like a, you know, a hanger kind of placed within it, and so on and so forth. So that's what it looks like, that kind of nestled in. And then let me show it to you. It's kind of singly, so that you can see it a little bit bigger. And that's what it looks like right there. This one, I could see a really lovely cream, almost a peachy cream fabric, I think would be really, really pretty. Nothing too heavy in color, but just something to kind of coincide with these and kind of match with those, and then have a nice foil for all of the greens. I think that would be really, really pretty. Just as an aside with this one, they do have a lot of quarter stitches. Every single one of these shamrocks have quarter stitches, and all of it is back stitched. So obviously you've got the words as back stitched, but all of these pieces are back stitched, as well as these as well. So you're going to be committing to a lot of back stitch if you want to do this piece. And I think it would need it, especially with the quarter stitches on all of these. Otherwise, I think it might look maybe a little bit incomplete there. But I think it's quite lovely and would be pretty for this kind of March season if you were to put out kind of that kind of March display. This next one is the start of a 4-part series. Actually, there's 2 different pieces in this magazine that are kind of series related that you'll get the patterns throughout the year with the different issues. This one is called Mini Sampler Series, and it is the spring. So remember last year we had the quilts, and that was the 4 different seasons. Now we're going to have lovely little round pieces that are little mini samplers. And this is designed by Carrie Powell of Curious Carrie Designs. And in fact, they show us all of them. When I flip the page, I'll see if there's any other things available. I don't think there's a pattern there, so I think I can show it to you. And so if you see this here, this is stitched on a very pale blue, and I really like that color scheme. I think it plays off all of the colors nicely. You could certainly pick another. Maybe you wanted to do something that was maybe a light pink, and then change these flowers. You wouldn't need to change the dark ones, but maybe change these to blue flowers or purple flowers or something along those lines, and matching it here. Or maybe a very pale green. I would go very pale, and then you might have to darken up some of these other greens, but there's lots of different options with that. I think the other thing that I was thinking about that you could do is maybe take the top off, and I don't know if this would be a regular square, if it's more of a rectangle. In fact, you could kind of just add a little bit of an extra bit down here at the bottom and have a different shape. So if you didn't want it in a round design, these are obviously designed where they could just be placed in and out of this piece if you wanted to. There's certainly other ways you could do it as well. But say take that top part off. I think that would be fun to have something a little bit smaller. And of course, now you have a small little alphabet available to you as well, if you needed a tiny little alphabet for something. And let me... Yes, I can show you. There's nothing on this side. So this is this month's right here with the spring. And as you can see, they've got pictures of the summer, the autumn, and the winter pieces as well. So they are a cute little set. You could even, thinking about it, even if you didn't want to do, you could take these different pieces to decorate things for the different seasons if you didn't want the alphabet, but you needed a small little piece. Say you needed a small little summer element. That would be really lovely just to pull that out of there. So really versatile, really sweet types of pieces there that you could do quite a bit with. This next one is this is called the 2025 Stitch Along. And I've already seen some people stitching it, and I've seen people talking about wanting to stitch it. It's called Nature's Journey, and it is designed by Katarina Holland, and from Sprouting, I don't know if it's Lupine or Sprouting Lupin. I'm not 100% sure which way to say it. So you can see what the whole piece is going to look like for the most part. Obviously, they're only showing you the piece this time around that is being released. I believe the materials, yes, the materials are for the complete design. So when they give you the DMC list, it is for the entire piece. Now, if you were to choose whatever fabric you were to choose, and what do they say here? Into the Veil, Lugana from Bestitch Me. Whatever piece you would want to stitch, you'd want to make sure that, as you can see, this element shows you a lot of different colors, and there's even more to come. You want to make sure that all of these different colors are going to show up quite nicely. So you'd want to be careful, not have something where too many colors are going to ghost into it. It's a pretty large piece. It's 252 high by 196 wide. So it is one of those that framing it is probably one of the easiest ways to display it. I did the math to try to figure out if, say, I wanted to scrapbook it, because something like this would be something that I would put in my cross-stitch scrapbook. I would have to stitch it on 22 count, or do you go higher or lower? The 22 count would be at least what I'd need to do. Even 20 count would make it 12.5 inches or so, and my scrapbooks are 12 by 12. So if I were to do a 22 or a 25, or you could obviously do any of the higher counts or lower counts, whichever way it goes, over one rather than two. I'm assuming this is over two because it's done in the 28 count. It must be, because it's telling me what the full design size is, which is 18 by 14. Doing it on a 20K over 2 or 14. So it's very lovely. I believe Helen D has already started stitching this. If you go to her Flosstube, I know there's several other people that have mentioned that they would like to stitch it. I've seen on social media or videos. So I think this is one you're going to see quite often in the future. So this way, if you're not sure about it, I think you'll have lots of chances to see and decide if it's something you want to stitch. It is, how many pages want? Just the 2 pages. Looks like just the 2 pages, to be honest with you. Oh, it's just the 2 pages of this design. That's right. So this section right here is 9 by 7 on a 1428. And so that's why there's just the 2 pages. But then that's convenient each time around. That's the same kind of thing you'll probably have. All right, this next one here. So each issue, Just Cross Stitch, basically asks the designer to be inspired by a sampler, and then they create kind of a modern version of that from their inspiration. And this one is Elizabeth Jenke Baddens, and it's called Quaker Posies. I can't read my own writing on my notes. And it is a lovely little piece of let me take a breath here. So on each section, the designer then has a small little piece where they talk about where they got their inspiration. They will show you a picture of the sampler that was their inspiration and what they took from it and what they started to do. And in this piece here, she talks about creating kind of a modern sort of Quaker, taking some elements from the original and then bringing it forward here. Now, they are using, to stitch this, one over-dyed variegated floss. So that's why you have all the different colors. They do give a DMC alternative, and they call for $9.89, which actually I have right here. So you will get some of that, but you will not get all of the different color changes. So your options are, you could use what's the called for. You could use some other version of variegated if you wanted to. For me, I know that I generally, a lot of times, when I use variegated, I don't do it as highly variegated as say this piece is. So mine might be a bit more subtle. What you could do is maybe choose a single color and then have your fabric be a bit more mottled and not quite as plain. And then that would bring out some of the elements depending on how you wanted to do it. So there's a lot of different ways you can tackle this one. I think I do like the greens. I do think I would go with a lighter green than what's shown here. There is in fact a couple small areas of backstitch and actually a couple of Igerian eyelets, I believe. And you can't even see them because they fade pretty much into the fabric. Now, obviously it would depend maybe on which section of the variegated floss you were using. This one calls for a week's dye works, but there's lots of different options and ways you could do it. So I think this is just a jumping off point, and whether or not you want to keep it similar to this. I mean, it would never look 100% the same because your variegation of your floss would be different than this and how it was used and so on and so forth. But you get kind of the idea of where it goes. But you could say you wanted to do this in maybe a very light purple and do purple floss, or blue and blue, however you wanted to, or mix and match. I think there's endless possibilities with this one. Alrighty. Next one here, let me flip. Oh, then they have in the next section a spring spruce up, a stitcher's guide to thread organization. So they talk about different ways that you can organize your thread. Now, what's not here is my system. So if you were interested in my system of DMC organization, and you could do any threads in here, of course, if you go to my playlist under organization, I talk about my threads and how I do it. And you obviously do not have to do anything as big as this, as I just happen to have this stray part of the wall right before a set of windows, and it was perfect. It fit perfectly here. And so, and I'm actually almost not quite tall enough to see the top ones. I have to go on tippy toe if I want to see inside, or the drawers actually conveniently come out. And so that's a lot of times what I do if I need to see something, because I'm a little short. But there is a nice little section on that if you want to see all of the different options that they came up with. Okay, so this next piece here is called Garden Bunny, and it is designed by Anastasia Slavina, and I apologize for that. I'm sure that's not how it's said. It sounds like it would be a really pretty name. I just don't know how to say it. And it is a sweet little kind of spring bunny. And you have all the different spring colors with the blues and the yellows and the pinks. I could see doing this on a very pale purple. I think that would be lovely, or a very pale green. I think both of those colors would look really nice with it. And here what they did was they attached it to a dowel and have it within the flowers. But obviously you could do whatever you wanted with it, however you wanted to. It's just a sweet little spring bunny. Alrighty. Now this next one right here, I will show you, there's two parts to this. I'm going to show you this, and then I'll turn it over to turn the next page so you can see even more of the Biscornio up here. This is called Signs of Spring, and is designed by Tracy Richards of Wrought Iron Stitching. So we have the one, there's two patterns. You're going to get the large tulip that has all of these small little different elements of spring, you know, flowers and bunnies, and there's a cross there. What else is there? A heart, and just lots of things different repeated. And then up here you have a biscornu that really highlights some butterflies and some bunnies. So I'm going to show you that this is the highlight to show you the side. I'll show you the front. Actually, you know what? Let's just show it to you right now. So here you can see the bunnies. These bunnies are different than this bunny. This one has kind of the elements taken out of it versus this one right here. They are just solid kind of bodies. And so that's the Biscornio from the top. And then if we go back over here, you can see it from the side. Now, this thread here that they're being used is Valdani. And so it's a variegated piece of thread. So again, they are getting all of these different colors from that one thread. The DMC, oh, this is really convenient. They're not making me crawl around. The DMC that is called for as the option to use is this color right here, 518. Of course, you could choose whatever you wanted. And again, if you didn't want to use Valdani, you can use any kind of variegated flosses if you would like a variegated look. Or you could choose to do non-variegated and maybe highlight some of these with a slightly different color. Maybe you do 2 different shades of a specific color, a light and a dark, so that it maybe some of the outline, or I want to highlight the flowers or the bunny or whatever. There's a certain way, if you want, I want the butterflies to be a different color than the bunnies on the biscuit. You could certainly do that as well. A lot of different options there. I was thinking when I was doing this, I think you could also do those little bunnies would be a very sweet, tiny little stitch if you wanted a little stitch for something. And I think the butterflies are super cute as well for a little stitch. Or I could see if you would like to do like a small little, maybe straight rectangle, butterfly, bunny, butterfly, or whichever bunny, or bunny, butterfly, bunny, whatever you wanted to highlight, you could even do something like that as well. And even just do a row of butterflies or a row of bunnies, or so many different options to pick and choose with the pieces within it. It's quite lovely for the options that you have. So that one is called Signs of Spring. Okay, so let me flip through. This next one right here is called Hoppity Easter and is designed by Jennifer Redmond. I think for me, it is so cute, isn't it? If I was to stitch this, I probably would stitch it on a light blue, because I think all of these colors would look nice on that. And everything is backstitched, so it really wouldn't matter. It's not going to blend in. Even that flower is white, but it's backstitched, so it'd be fine. And I think, for me, I think as cute as this little guy is, I probably would take him out, maybe do one of these, another little small little egg there, or maybe not. I would try it without it, and I would probably square it off. But obviously all of that would be up to you, what your choices are. Okay. Next piece here, if I can turn the page. Excuse me for a minute. All right. This one is called Spring Crocus and is designed by Linda Jean Jenkins. And you have some very pretty flowers here. Now there is some backstitch here. All of these lines right here are all backstitched. And then you do have some broad backstitching of the flowers. Not a lot though. I was thinking, looking at this, I do kind of like that peachness of this. It kind of goes nicely with the different colors of flowers. I could also see if I wanted to do I could see doing a very pale green. I think that would be lovely too, kind of as the outdoor sort of look. And again, everything is backstitched, so it would blend nicely. I could also see maybe taking out the Hope, Joy, Renewal, and you could either keep that and do kind of like a square backstitched, or just do the flowers themselves. I think they would be quite pretty as well as a smaller element if you wanted to. So there's a lot of different ways you can tackle this one. All right. Next make sure I have the right one. The next is called He Has Risen, and it is by Froni Ritter of Froni Ritter Designs. And these are all blocks of color, all the different shades. So this one would be quite what do they call it? A confident beginner stitch. And I think you could get quite, most people could tackle this one quite easily. I think I would do it on maybe a very, very pale purple to kind of play into those shades, but it does look nice on the white as well. Okay. There is a little bit of backstitch at the bottom, the words, but for the most part, it is all just X's. All right, this next one is very cute. It's designed by Svetlana Hrybeck of X Free Stitch, and it is called Be Unique. I love the eyes on this bird. He is cute. I could see stitching this one potentially on a very pale green again to kind of draw out the blues. I myself probably wouldn't put in the words Be Unique. And then down here, so again, because this comes out, I think, a bit because you've got the words. This is basically a grounding circle. So a lot of times if you don't want your piece floating in air, there'll be kind of like something that grounds it, kind of like a shadow of sorts. This one is kind of looking at, okay, the sun is coming from this way, but I've also seen grounding circles that are more just around the bottom, just to kind of basically give it a sense of ground. You also wouldn't have to do that if you don't care about it. So called floating in space. So you could change the shape of that if you didn't want the words, or you could keep it however you wanted, or to take it out altogether. So he is quite cute with a few different options there. All right, this one right here, I totally see obviously in anybody's craft room or craft space even. Maybe if you don't have a specific room, but you have a small area of a room and you wanted to put this one to decorate your area. It's called Procrastinating, and it is a Sunny Lofstrom of 3 tiny owls. It's very reminiscent of some of the Stitchrovia type of words where you have the typography and then the different colors of the words, and the there's backstitch to kind of highlight and the different letters too. I could see this one on a very pale, say again, purple. I'm coming back to a lot of purples. Ironic, I swear I didn't wear the purple top because of that, but I feel like I'm coming back to that a lot. But I think a lot of these spring colors, if that color is not being used, I think it would look nice. Pretty much every other color is being used. You could also do maybe like a very kind of peachy cream again. Something along those lines would be really nice if you didn't want the white starkness. Now here, because of how they've displayed it, the white does work nicely too. But again, framed would also be a lovely little way to finish this. And you could choose whatever color frame you want to bring out maybe one of the other colors. If you have a favorite color or a certain decor color that you like to highlight as splashes of color, I think using a frame that way would be really, really nice too. This next one is designed by Amy Graff of Color Me Amy X Stitch, and it is called Gnome Sayin. I guess it's what we know what I'm saying kind of thing. Super cute. I know gnomes, some people love them, some people don't like them, and some are fairly ambivalent. I think it's cute. I myself would not stitch the words again. I think the element itself would work fine. And you have here, you have butterfly, butterfly, and I believe down here is a third one. So you have the visual triangle, and then if you wanted to do maybe another, so you have the fly, I assume that would be a fly. They added one here, maybe you do another one up where the word would be, and you'd have another mini visual triangle, and I think you'd be fine. This is sweet on the pale green, and I think I would keep that. If I was looking at it, that yes, that's the shade that I would use. And of course, you can make this into a leaner or a pillow or any other sort of finish that you wanted to as well. Okay, turning the page here. Okay, this one is 2 different pages, so I'll start here and then I'll show you the third. There's 3 patterns to this. It's called Retro Tech, and it's designed by Kathleen Burlew. So basically thinking about, okay, these are all things I grew up with, so calling it retro really makes me feel old, but you know, hey, it is the way it is. We have the TV, we have kind of like the, well, radio. Yeah, it's more radio than what boombox would be. So this goes back a little bit farther than even the boombox era. And then the telephone, back when we had dial phones and the actual earpiece. And they did a cute little way to do the cord right there. So obviously you could do these any colors you wanted. So if there was a color you wanted to highlight out of the 3 of them, you could do that. There's actually some seed beads in here, some DMC light effects, and a little bit of back stitching. So let me show you them like this. Those are the 3, as you can see. So here they've placed them on, you know, little holders for like pen holders or markers or scissors, things like that. They would be adorable as cards. I think especially the phone. You could have the telephone, and then whether or not you stitched or stamped or wrote or stickered. You could do some sort of fun little saying underneath. The pieces themselves are small. The biggest one is the television at 33 by 33. The telephone's the smallest at 21 by 25. So you could certainly do, these are very quick stitches, and they would be fun as small little pieces like a card or things like that as well. Now the last two pieces, we're on pattern number 19 now here, or design 19. Remember now, each issue has a Halloween and a Christmas piece to it. So first we have the Halloween stitch, and this is called Beneath the Skeleton Moon, and it is La Petite Croix de Lucie again. Great, the one that I can't say, I have to say it twice. I think this is gorgeous on the purple. I really do think that was a good choice of fabric in order to use it. I will say on this one, be prepared. There's only one way I could do it, a ton. And that's really the only expression I can use, a ton of back stitching. Now, I believe it's necessary for a piece like this, but be prepared. If I look at the pattern, which I'm not going to show you, it is just, I almost wish they had given you two versions, because the back stitch, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different colors of back stitch, and all of this is heavily back stitched with multiple pieces and colors over it. So just be prepared. I think you'd need it, and I think it makes the piece just pop, but be prepared. This one might be one where it might be hard to do a working copy, or you might be able to for the original stitch underneath, but then with the back stitch, you'd need to look at the original piece. And then the very last one is the Christmas stitch, and it's designed by Tracy Richards of Wrought Iron Stitching. So we have, where are they? 4 different pieces. We have one large piece right here, and then 3 small sweet elements here. Now these are all stitched on perforated paper. You, of course, at any point could choose to do fabric instead of perforated paper if you wanted. They make sweet little ornaments, especially these small little ones. This one's a doghouse. I mean, you wouldn't, if you were doing that as just a small ornament for the tree, you don't have to put the words dog on there. It could just be a kind of just a mini looking sort of house, depending on if you wanted to. And these little mini ones, like the heart's 12 by 13. So that would be a very cute, sweet stitch if you wanted to do some small pieces like that. The tree, 19 by 13. How cute would that be if you wanted to do a bunch of trees as little gifts for a group that you're in, or coworkers or family, or something if you wanted just a sweet little stitch. There's DMC and there's back stitching. If you wanted to, I'm sure you could add, for all of you who are really accomplished with beading, I'm sure you could add beading somehow or other as well. But those are the final 4 pieces right there. And they're kind of given that cookie cutter shape. So these 3 would be really lovely on tiny trees, or nestled in somewhere on a big tree if you need some small sections. And then this Christmas cookie house is 51 by 42. So a little bit bigger. But again, depending on what size fabric you used, if you wanted to put it on fabric, because this is using 14 count perforated paper, but if you put it on a higher count of fabric, you could make it a small little piece. And at that point, maybe you don't necessarily do the cutout, but it could be against a fun color as a square or rectangle kind of piece. So that's that. And then the rest of the magazine, of course, is usually they give the cross stitch basics, what they do again, and there is a page with some finishing instructions for things that you need. And then this I always love. If you want to see a quick glance of all of the pieces, this I find invaluable, and I really hope that they always keep it, because I can go to the back, find the piece I want right away, and just jump right to it. And then I thought I would show you at the back, usually are the new Mill Hills. I don't do a lot of Mill Hills, but I want to in theory. There's a sweet one right here, if we've lost a pet. I think this is the sweetest one right here. I love that cow. And then some lovely scene ones down here. So there's some fun little, if you are a big fan of Mill Hills, there are some fun ones coming out there as well. So that is the Spring 2025 Just Cross Stitch magazine. Do you have a favorite? What do you think you'd like to start with? Are you already stitching on something from it? I would love to know what you are doing. I have some pieces I want to start and I want to stitch. It's just a matter of putting them in the rotation with all of my other stitches. So leave some feedback. Let me know what you liked out of the magazine. And until next time, happy stitching.